Buenas noches. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hi, Martin. Thanks for joining. So today we will be talking about intimacy and the importance of intimacy for all of us, right? So yesterday's topic was sensuality, and I hope that you all were able to really tune in to your bodies and see, what is your body telling you about your self-image? How do you relate to your own body and to other bodies? Because that's really, one of the biggest things that sometimes we take for granted. So let's jump right on in. Hola, Pedro. Hi, Pedro. So thanks to my viewers for continuing to follow. Hi, everyone. So what is sensuality? We talked about that yesterday. It's really how we see our body image and relate to it. And the Spanish broadcast is at 9:30. So I do first English, then Spanish. So 9, then 9:30. Hola, Pedro. Estoy bien. I'm good. So intimacy, topic for the night. Let's jump on in. So, this is a sacred space. I've said this before, and, feel free to ask questions, put comments up. I love hearing what you guys have to say, you all have to say, and what I will try to do is answer them as I go. Thank you. And really just, feel free to jump in. This is an interactive conversation, I hope. So intimacy really is the degree to which we really experience physical expression, closeness, right, to someone else, right? So if we're not really experiencing that closeness, then it's really, really hard to connect with someone, right? Often, when we enter into romantic relationships, and I'm gonna almost focus this one topic on that, but really when we talk about closeness, it's really, how are we connecting with someone else? How are we caring, sharing, liking, loving, trusting? How are we being vulnerable? That's a huge one for a lot of people. The idea of being vulnerable can be so scary that you almost just don't interact with someone in that way because of the thoughts that might come up. What would they think? Hola from Mexico. Hi, love Mexico. Like I said, if you are putting on comments that are inappropriate, I will block you. So please, if you're going to ask anything, make sure it's respectful. This is an empowering channel, and it's meant to really educate and help people discover different things about themselves and tap into their inner power, their sacral power, their sexual power. So if comments come through that are not nice, viewers too, if you love this channel and want me to keep coming back, also feel free to block people. I love if you guys also support me in that, because I know trolls happen. Hey Vanda. Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. So I was just talking about vulnerability and really how we can shut down and cease to be intimate because of our fear of vulnerability. And one of the things that is part of our intimacy and our world of intimacy within our sexuality is also self-disclosure. And I want to just share with you all some really interesting information about self-disclosure. So, when we self-disclose, and what is that, right? What is self-disclosure? So self-disclosure is really when we share with other people. Thank you, Vanda. I love you too, and I'm glad you're enjoying this. When we share with people about ourselves, right? So when you say, my favorite color is purple. I love to go for walks in the park with my dog. All of these aspects that describe you when you share personal details, right? If you share with someone a really personal experience, you instantly feel more connected. You instantly feel more connected. And that in and of itself is self-disclosure. So really, self-disclosure is one of the key things that connects us to people, that allows that intimacy to build, right? And to bring it back onto ourselves, right? How are we intimate with ourselves? Are we lying to ourselves? Sometimes we don't want to admit things to ourselves that we desire, that we yearn for, right? Some of us are taught, I know, at least in my family, if you were a girl, you were taught one thing, but if you were a boy, you were taught something completely different. So, someone like my brother grew up just like hearing you have to be a strong man and like you have to be macho and, almost like disconnected from yourself on some level. And that really can be detrimental in relationships because you are scared to connect with someone. You're scared to share intimate fantasies and details about yourself. And really, it takes away from your capacity to be expansive and to be one with that person. And really that's what a lot of us are seeking. We're seeking oneness through relationship, whether that's a relationship that's intimate sexually, or a relationship at work, or a relationship with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your best friends. I know, I have really good best friends. We are so close. I would say I'm super intimate with my best friends, yet there's no physical intimacy. There's no sexual activity happening, right? And that's one of the things we often confuse when people say, oh, you were intimate. It's almost like it automatically jumps to, oh, you had sex. And that's really not what intimacy is about. Like I said, intimacy is about closeness with another person. That also can come right back to how open and close you are with yourself, right? If you're constantly talking negative to yourself, you're not very self-trusting, right? So how can you really start and begin to trust someone else if you're not trusting yourself? So another thing, with self-disclosure is you're taking risks. And I don't know about you, but to me, life in and of itself is about risk taking. I never met someone who, was successful to their own definition, right? Because we all have our own definitions of success. But I've never met someone who was successful and didn't take a risk at some point on the journey. And often, we enter a relationship and we're not sure how to take those risks. We're not sure if when's the right time, is this the right person to take the risk with? And I'm here just to say, you know, take a risk with everyone. You know, everyone is seeking to fill their needs. Oh, thank you for joining. I will see you soon. And I am on Catch Me, so if you have to go, you can always watch the replay. So, you know, it's super important to really look at, do you trust others? Are you trusting of yourself with others, right? Because if you're holding back, if you're afraid that you're going to say something or do something to make someone mad or sad, or if you are taking responsibility for someone else's feelings in relation to how you are expressing your intimacy towards them, that can really hold us back. That can really put a barrier up between us and our true potential to be completely free, loving, caring, passionate with that person. You know, one of the things that I always think about is, you know, that care, and how often, you know, in our society we see care and it's associated with a bunch of different like ideas, right? You think of care, you think of healthcare. You think of care, you think of parenting. You think of care, you think of, you know, someone depending on you, because on some level in our society, it's almost become not sexy to care. And I'm here to tell you, it's super sexy when you care for someone, when you share, when you are vulnerable, when you just are 100% authentic about who you are, what you want, and express that in a unique way. You know, for years, I have to say, you know, I'm going to talk a little bit self-disclose here. I had these same fears. I would let things like, you know, what is he going to say, or what is he going to think, or what is she going to think, really stop me from fully being open with someone and trusting that regardless of what I did or said, as long as I was coming from a place of love, of compassion, of integrity and authenticity, that it would work, right? And if it didn't work, it just wasn't meant to work, right? Because, you know, there's divine order always, right? You know, the sun doesn't need an alarm to shine. That's divine order. And the same way that happens, you know, people make their way to different things. So definitely something worth exploring for all of us. You know, how open are we to being intimate with someone else? You know, a lot of the time too, part of intimacy is that stage in a relationship where you are getting to know each other, right? So every time you share something, like I said, you're being intimate. But also it's through that interaction, through that exchange, that deeper feelings begin to transform and manifest for you and the other person. So I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship where you're the talker and am I on Instagram? Yes, I'm on Instagram. I am. It's the same handle, Sexuality Expert, for Twitter, Instagram, and here. I also do have a Facebook page. Due to the name of my business, I couldn't put Sexuality Power, but it's Intimate Power. So facebook.com/Intimate Power. And you can find tidbits there as well that you can soak on in. So really, you know, driving the message home, look at how you're being intimate. Look at how you're expressing love towards others. You know, how are you self-disclosing, right? Just because you're in a relationship and it's already, you know, a marriage or something that's monogamous or long-term, it doesn't mean that it stops there, right? Life is a continual process, and so is your sexuality, so is intimacy. So really continue that practice. You know, one of the things that I encourage us, and I'm even gonna do this challenge with you all, and we can maybe share in the next scope how it's going, is really taking time, whether it's every day or once a week, to sit down with someone who you want to be closer to and share some intimate details. Facebook name, yes, it is facebook.com/intimatepower. And I will post those also on my Twitter so that you can see it as well. So really take that time with, you know, whenever you can, to connect, to begin to share and like someone else on a deeper level, right? Liking is a process that, you know, is continual. It never stops. You never stop getting to know someone. You can be married 100 years and, you know, at day 101 of the year, you know, into it, just discover something completely new about someone. Someone can pass away that you have been close to your entire life, and, you know, after they've passed, you find out some information about them that you never knew, right? We are infinite beings. We are powerful. And really, there's so much for us to share with one another that makes us unique, that has shaped who we are. Thoughts, beliefs, ideas, fantasies, all of this are things that we can share with one another to bond us, to build that intimacy with one another. So I am going to leave it there. If there are no other questions, I thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a passionate night. And until tomorrow morning when I am back on,